וכי נפשי es Hashem. Today, in Muktzha Hashem, we're going to finish the perek and begins the next one. The lesson today, the Daf, it's 47 in Tractate Shabbat. Some word of introduction. We're going to cover cooking in Shabbat. In general, is one of the 39 prohibitions that we're not allowed to do on Shabbat. So this part of the chapter dealing with the clarification and the precise definition of the prohibition of labor of cooking. We're going to deal a little bit with the Muktzha, basi's לדבר האסור, and other הלכות of Muktzha, with something that's set aside. And then, time allowing, we'll go to the next perek, the fourth one. And this perek, it's basically focus on the detail of the labor of cooking on Shabbat, and discuss the issue of the practical perspectives. And then we go to the whole idea of combination of a cooking and baking and extinguishing or creating fire on Shabbat. We are two lines from the top of page 47. Amar Rabbi Zera, Amar Rabbi Asi, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Amar Rabbi Chanina, Amar Rabbi Romanus. Is one in the name of the other. Li hitir Rabbi letaltel machta be'efra. Here we are speaking about foundation, basi's לדבר האסור, something that you cannot carry. Here we speak about a pot. You have a pan and pot, and it's basically used for something that דבר האסור, something that is forbidden, such as לצורך גופו, לצורך מקומו. For example, if they have some ashes that it's muktzah, and something that wasn't ready for Shabbat, so therefore some people needs it for certain purposes. If it was an ancient time, they need to cover it. If a child make relieve himself and make a mess, etc., so they use those ashes for those purposes. So he Rabbi Zera said that Rabbi allowed me to use, permitted me to carry coal pan with its ashes on Shabbat. So Amar le Rabbi Zera le Rabbi Asi, mi amar Rabbi Yochanan achi? You're going to tell me that that's what Rabbi Yochanan said, Vatnan. We have further on GEMARA in Kuf Mem Aleph 141 that said as follows: Notel Adam bno ve'aven biyado. Imagine if David taking Avi, and Avi is carrying a little child, he carries a stone. So now, the father can carry the son, but what about the stone the son's hold, right? So here again, the son cry, he misses dad. So the father know that if he's not carrying him, he's crying and he's, so if you're afraid that this little boy will become so sick with crying and everything, you're allowed to carry him. But now, he carries. Or kalkala va'even betocha, or he has a little bag like toys or whatever it is, and the stone is inside. So even basically, you by force of circumstance can carry the son. By the way, you carry another thing, right? So ואמר רבא בר חנא אמר רבי יוחנן בכלכלה מלאה פירות עסקינן. He said, we're dealing with a basket that is full of fruits. So due to the fruit, carrying the stone is also permitted, which is by the way. So he said, Tama, which means this one became which we call basis, a foundation for the stone, because the fruits, it's not muktzah. So they are, in a way, Ramban said, are more important than the stone that it's muktzah. So the basket is not considering basis לדבר האסור. So here we said Tama the itlei pire. That's specifically because they are fruits. Haleitle perelo. But if it doesn't carry a fruit, you cannot carry it. Why? Because that's what we said earlier. We said that it's basis לדבר האסור. It's the foundation of something that is forbidden. So here's the question: how come Rabbi Yochanan allow to carry this machta, this pot, this coal pan, that it's carry these ashes? How come he allow it? So it's like, if you hold the semes Rabbi Yehuda, that so the pan is basically, the coal pan is forbidden to carry. Ishtomem kesha'achada. That's it. It's a very beautiful expression. It's come from the book of Daniel, chapter 4, and it's basically said he was astonished for a while. In other words, he couldn't answer. He looked deeper, and then he said, "Ve'amar hacha nami deit bei kartin." And he said, here too, it's referring to a case where the coal pan has bites of frankincense that were not yet burned, which means they have these small points. It's called levona, and those small seeds were not considering muktzah because you can use them for fragrance. So you can carry that pot coal and also the ashes that come together with it, because you can carry this basket while the stone is there. So because those small gargirei levona, small seeds, is more important than the ashes, so it's not considering basis לדבר האסור. אמר אביי. So Abaye said, "Kartin bei Rabbi michashivei." He said, a small bits in a house of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi is really significant. Why? Because they are. It's really not so. He is rich. He is the president. So he doesn't care for those small seeds. So therefore they have a different category. They now become Muktzha. It's like set aside, and therefore you cannot carry that coal pan. That's basically the Ritva said. So he answered and he said, since it's not, so that coal pan is considering basis לדבר האסור, a foundation for something that is forbidden. Now, v'chi teima chazulaniyim, since the great Rabbi Yehuda Nasi always poor people come to his house, maybe that's proper to feed the poor people. Ve'atanya, we learned in the Braita, bigdei aniyim la'aniyim, bigdei ashirim la'ashirim, which is some type of garments that goods for a poor people. For example, it's a small size, 3 by 3 fingers, or it's made in such a low quality of clothing, so they accept tuma, impurity, when it's belong to the poor people. Rich people, however, they have a garments 3 by 3, for example, so it's good for them, and for sure it's considering good also for whom? For the poor. However, aval da'aniyim la'ashirim lo, but clothes for the poor, of the poor, for the rich, are not significant. So, in other words, if the rich person have this type of clothing that it's belong to a poor, he will not accept impurity. So therefore what we understand, that those small seed of levona, even that it's important by the poor people, but according to the Rebbe, they carry no significance. So because we cannot carry it, so since the owner make it as a muktzah, so it's muktzah for everyone. Now, Ela Amar Abaye. So Abaye said an alternative explanation. The halacha here is just applied to mide dehava agraf shel re'i. So just in the case of a chamber of a part of feces, which means since it's disgusting, removing it from the house is permitted, even though it's clearly that it's no use for it. Right? Because it's Amar Rava, שתי תשובות בדבר. There are two answers on this. Chada, graf shel re'i ma'is. First, this is something that it's disgusting. V'hai la ma'is. And this one, the dust, the pieces of ashes is not considering disgusting. Ve'od graf shel re'i migale. When it's open, it's very disgusting. V'hai michase. And this ashes, it's cover. Or this type of coil pad have a cover. So basically the smell coming out of the cover, Rashi said, of that pan coal. So you don't see the ashes inside. So you cannot compare that to a real open feces. It's just two different things. So you have to go a different direction. And he said, Ela Amar Rava, כי הווה ברב נחמן הווה מטלטלין קנונה אגב קיטמה ואף על גב דאיקה עלי שברי עצים. He says when we have at the house of Rav Nachman, we'll move the coal pan, which called kanuna, on account of the ashes, and we did this even though there were broken pieces of wood on it. So why? Because the ashes can be used to cover the field, it is not muktzah, it's not set aside, and the coal pan may be moved due to the ashes. And basically that's the situation that happened by Rebbe, that it's not a muktzah, and therefore he allowed to do it. The big chidush here that it's even though that pan have some broken wood pieces, you're allowed to carry that in order to use it for the ashes. The same way as you allow earlier to use a basket of fruits, even there is inside a stone. Clear? So now they ask a question. They said, since we talked earlier about old candle, meitivei veshavin, so you have to say that both of them, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon, both equal, agreed, שאם יש בה שברי פתילה שאסור לטלטל, that if the candle carry pieces of the wick, you cannot carry it, right? Even though Rabbi Shimon disagreed with Rabbi Yehuda, and he allowed to carry old candle, but he agreed that if it's a small pieces of those wicks, he cannot carry them. Why? Because it's muktzah. So the Gemara said, Amar Abaye begalila shanu. We talk about Galilite. So over there it's different because that type of wool wasn't so much where the oil is in abundance and inexpensive, right? Mm-hmm. So that is why broken wicks are not nullified relative to the oil. That's what Rav Nissim Gaon said. So basically what we understand that so far we explain that when they need to carry a candle brand that have assembled pieces, we have a concern that it may be fall apart, and therefore the person need on Shabbat to reassemble it. So now, when we finish the big big discussion, in regard to Muktzha, now we return to our discussion to putting together pieces on Shabbat. That's the Pnei Yoshua point of view. So he said, the Gemara said as follows: Levi bar Shmuel ashkechinu leRabbi Abba leRavuna bar Chiya de'avukami apitcha de'veravuna. You saw them at the Ravuna entrance of his house. Amar lehu Levi bar Shmuel said to them, Ma'u le'achzir mita shel tarsiyim b'Shabbat. What is the halacha in reassemble a weaver loom, which is typically collapsible frame on Shabbat? So, what's the dilemma? The dilemma here is that those tarsiyim, they go from one place to another, and they carry those type of bed, and basically each and every time it's like portable. They put it together. So he asked, do we allow to put together something like that on Shabbat? Amar lei, Shapir Dame. He said, yes, they can do it. Atale Kamei. Levi bar Shmuel came before Rav Yehuda. Amar, Harav Shmuel Damar et Ravayo Machzir Mita Shel Tarsiyim B'Shabbat Chayav Chatat. You know, you go to a doctor, now you go to second opinion, the other guy said something else. So here, we said, one who reassemble a weaver loom on Shabbat is liable to bring a sin offering. Why? Because he's performed labor prohibited by Torah on Shabbat. What's the problem? Can you recognize the Torah law that we are speaking here about? What's the
completion, finishing something?
Makeh b'patish is like pushing the hammer. Remember we talked about it yesterday? Because when you put together the bed, it's considered makeh b'patish. Tosfot is in the next page in the Bua Matchil Rabban. He holds that when the bed is attached to each other, that's the case. But anyway, Meitivei, Hamachzir Kne Menorah b'Shabbat Chayav Chatat. He said, one who reassembled the branch of the dissembled candle burn on Shabbat, again, Chayav Chatat, is liable to bring sin offering. So in other words, this is a situation that it can reassemble and assemble its pieces. So if one return it, it's like Makeh b'patish, is one of the 39 melachot that forbidden on Shabbat. So he said, Knes Sayadin, but if it's a plaster's pole, which is has several component parts, Lo Yachzir. לכתחילה you should not put it together. ואם החזיר פטור אבל אסור. פטור אבל אסור meaning פטור is free from a sin offering, but the rabbi said that you should not use it. Why? Because constantly you need to reassemble and assemble, so it's considered גמר מלאכה of makeh b'patish. רבי סימאי אומר, קרן עגולה, קרן חייב, קרן פשוטה פטור. If you take, for example, flute, the ancient flute, that it's made out of pieces, and you put those pieces together, so since those holes hold very strongly, so he is liable for sin offering. But one that goes straight, not half a cycle, but straight instrument, right? Like those ancient flute. So he's free. Keren Agula and Keren Pshuta, if you look at the old movies, you see round Roman horn. So that's, or straight Roman horn. That's the difference between Keren Agula and Keren Pshuta. So you need to have a expert to put it together. It's not so. Here earlier we said that the bed of the Tarsiyim is the same as the kernel bone that made out of those pieces. So the same way is that one who put it together is liable. So we learn the same thing over the bed of Tarsiyim, that the one who put it together is again liable on Shabbat. Inu damu ka'itana detanya malbenot amita. So they say that the legs of the bed ve karot amita and the archer's tables ulervachim shel skibas, which means that this is the part of the bow upon which pulls the arrow back, and they detach from the bed or from the bow. So it's like you remember those days that they used to have a row and the bow, you know, to like the ancient time.
Bow and
so
arrow,
that
yep.
what?
Bow and arrow.
Bow and arrow. So he said, Lo yachazir, you should not put it back, you should not reassemble them on Shabbat. Ve'im echzir, but if you reassemble them, he is exempt from what? From a sin offering. Aval asur. Aval asur 47b, however, doing it prohibited. Who is prohibited? It's Rabbanan, it's the sages. You see a lot of time in Hilchot Shabbat, Patur, Aval asur. Asur, it's a rabbinic. And then he said, Velo itka, and for sure you shouldn't fasten the pieces together forcefully by nails, for example. V'im taka chayav chatat. It's again makeh בפטיש. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel omer maya rafui mutar. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel said that if it was loose and could be assembled easily, it's permitted. So you see here a 3-point when you speak about putting together pieces of utensils on Shabbat. One, they speak about attaching it in a strong way that is forbidden in the Torah. Put it in lucidly, it's forbidden from the rabbinic. It's called decree from hiduk, putting together. Second point, according to the first Tana and the second Braita, regardless if you put together that with hiduk, with a strong attachment, and or you do it loosely, it's forbidden by the rabbinic, because it's decreed that maybe he is going to blow it. According to Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, that's the third point. Attaching it strongly, it's forbidden by a rabbinic way, but if you put it loosely, it's you allow it's mutar lechatchila. So pi'ei Rav Chama v'mate glalinta. So in the house of Rav Chama, it was a collapsible bed, which means that they use it. It's like the old Tarsim that they assemble and reassemble. Hava mehadre biyom hatuva. They put together in a festival, in Yom Tov. Amar le Omer Rabbanan le Rava. One of the sages said to the Rava, the Rif said, Rav Chama, Mai da'atich binyan min hatzadu. What do you tell me? That it's like building it min hatzad. It's like putting it in a sense in a shinui, in a different direction, not putting it directly, but doing it in a typical manner. So Rashi said here, klomar al-edei shinui. Please read in my book, Birah Klomar, the elaboration of the meaning here, because if you tell me it's shinui, it's not min hatzad, it's two different categories. That's what I think bothered the Rashi. But anyway, since it's min hatzad, it's not considering binyan gamur, because it's not attached in such a strong way. It's not gmar melacha. It's not prohibited in the Torah. So it's not enough reason to allow it. So he said, Nehi de isura, de oraita leka. Even although there is no Torah prohibition, isura de rabbanan miha ika. It's in any case, you have here a rabbinic prohibition. Amar lei, so respond to him and he said, Anah כרבן שמעון מגמליאל סביר עלי. דאמר, I am hold in accordance of the opinion of רבן שמעון מגמליאל, who said, אם היה רפוי מותר, if it were loose, it's permitted to do it even לכתחילה. So in Shulchan Aruch, or Chaim Shin Yud Gimel 313, he said that it's 3 stages when it's come to put together utensils. One, you do it forcefully. It's called in Hebrew tki'ah bekoach. Putting it forcefully, that's forbidden by the Torah. If you just tighten it, it's forbidden by the rabbinic. If you do it lucidly, it's mutar lechatchila, it's allowed even at the first place. But not everyone hold, the Bet Yosef and Ramah hold that it's only if people get used to put it like loosely, then it's fine. But other things that usually people tightening it, they not allow even loosely to put together. That's also the Chazon Ish said it in Orach Chaim chapter 50. Mishna. נותנים כלי תחת הנר לקבל ניצוצות ולא ייתן לתוכו מים מפני שהוא מכבה. A person can put beneath the vessel an oil lamp that receive those sparks, burning sparks that come out. However, do not put in that vessel under the lamp water, because basically guess what you're doing? You are extinguishing the sparks. So soon the Gemara elaborate on that. So the Gemara asks a question, Veha kamevatel kli meichano, because you basically negate the vessel's preparations, which means the vessel was prepared in certain way, and now you make it muktzah. Because the minutes that those sparks fall, so it became basis לדבר האסור, foundation for something that is forbidden, and it's forbidden to carry it on the entire Shabbat. So now you change it, change the situation, it's a muktzah. אמר רב הונא ברד רב יהושע, ניצוצות אין בהם ממש. Makes sense. He says spark have no substance. So the kli will not become basis, foundation, and you can carry it from one place to another. It's not the vessel remains suitable to be moved. It's not bitul kli me'echano. Next we said ולא ייתן לתוכו מים מפני שהוא מחפה. Don't put water because you're basically extinguishing the sparks. So he said, Leimatnan stama ki Rabbi Yossi damar gurem lechiburei asur. Rabbi Yossi, all that if something create a extinguishing is forbidden. So soon we read in page 120, the Mishna said that if God forbid there is fire on Shabbat, so you can avoid the continuation, the sparking of a fire by putting a separation, a petition around. And you put all kind of vessels, for example, vessels even filled with water, so they're avoiding the fire to go further. So Rabbi Yossi in that Mishnah said you cannot use utensils filling water to do it, because those utensils create situation that eventually will be broken, and the water will extinguish the fire. So you're creating extinguisher fire on Shabbat. So the Gemara, they rejected and said, "V'tizbera eimur de'amar Rabbi Yossi b'Shabbat בערב Shabbat mi amar." That applies specifically if he did it on Shabbat. But if it's Erev Shabbat, is the eve of Shabbat, who said that he hold that way? V'chita imach hinami b'Shabbat. And if you tell me that this, even in this Mishnah it meant b'Shabbat, v'ata notnim kli tachat haner lekabel nitzot b'Shabbat v'tzech lomar בערב Shabbat. If you're allowed to do it on Shabbat, for sure in the eve of Shabbat you allow, ולא ייתכן מתוכו מים, you should not put the water there. Why? מפני שהוא מכבס, considering that he is extinguishing it, מערב שבת, ואין צריך לומר בשבת, it's forbidden on Shabbat. So So because you cannot put the water in that vessels on Friday, because it's causes extinguishing, so that's exactly the way of Rabbi Yossi. So now, El Amar Rav Ashi said, here, Afilu Teima Rabanan Shaneacha Mipnei Shemekarevet Kibuyo. He said, even you said that this Mishnah is according to the opinion of the sages, here is different, because it causing the spark to extinguish, hastening the extinguishing of the spark. So extinguishing immediately when they fall in the water. That's what Rabbeinu Hananel said. So therefore the rabbi is not allowed to do it. It's not just a gorem lekibui, that he caused to be extinguished. He really extinguishing it. So the minute you do that, the sages said even before Shabbat you cannot do that. Why? Because if you do that, then it may happen that you do it when it's already twilight. So that's basically the reason that we said that we cannot put the water on Shabbat, because if you allow him to put that place with the vessel with the water on Friday, in order to receive those sparks on Shabbat, the people will say, okay, so tomorrow we can do that too. And because the sages doesn't want that to happen, they're avoiding it even on Friday, and that's basically what Tosfot said, and the Rashba said, and Ramban said. Hadran alach kira. This chapter 4, it's dealing with Hatmana. If you remember, we discussed earlier situation that a person does before Shabbat, pulling something and wrap it up with the blankets and keep the temperature in a certain way. So basically you're taking something that was cooked in a certain temperature, and in order to observe the temperature in a certain way, you wrap it up or you put it in a location that it will observe the temperature. Now, on Friday you're allowed to do that with anything that save the same temperature, as long as it's not דבר שאינו מוסיף הבל, as long as it's not add smoke, not add heating. But if something that can increase the temperature is forbidden. Second, during Shabbat itself you cannot do any type of hatmana whatsoever. The prohibition of Shabbat is decree, because the fear is that if he found that plate and he really realized that it's not hot enough, then he figure out I have to heat it and it's Shabbat, and then he violated the biblical prohibition of heating on Shabbat and cooking on Shabbat. So therefore you cannot do a hatmana even with something that is not add heat or smoke to that. But on Friday is a different story. The fear is that then, especially in those days, they use a coal, hot coal, and it's also increase the temperature, right? They increase the smoking there. So then you're going to do chitui begachalim, you're going to move the coals, like you do barbecue, you see that it's not baked enough, so what do? You're taking those coals and you start moving them around. And that's the way you basically expedite the heating. So we start the Mishnah. Bame tomnim uvama ein tomnim. If someone take out the pot on Shabbat, meaning before Shabbat begins, Erev Shabbat, the twilight for example, and he wants to observe the temperature, and which type of materials a person can put it, that it's just observe the temperature, and avoiding the temperature to go below, but not higher. So the Mishnah starts via negativa. And the Mishnah said, Ein tomnin lo begefet, velo bazevel, velo bamelach, velo basid, velo bachol, ben lachin yebeshim. One may not insert in the soil residue of produce that press free for its oil, nor in a salt, nor in a lime, nor in a sand. Whatever those materials are moist or whatever they are dry, which means all those materials basically constantly generate heat. So they add a heat to a pot. It's basically insulated them. Velo betevin, not put the pot in a straw. Velo bezagin, velo bamukhin, velo basavim bizman shelachim, nor residue of grapes that press with the juice, nor the soft materials like clothing, nor grass. בזמן שלחים, אבל טומנים בהם כשהם יבשים. When their materials are moist, but you can do it, you can insulate a pot in them when they are dry. Why? Because if it's dry, it's not add any heat. So they ask, Gefet shel zeitim. The sages express a predicament. Did we learn with regard to olives that it's made out of residue of olives? So he said, Aval shumshumin shapir dame, but made out of the sesame seeds. They are pressed for the oil. So may we use for food on Shabbat Eve. So, but you see here, or Dilma, or perhaps we can say the shumshumin tnan v'kol sheken zeitim, that we are speaking about sesame in the Mishnah, and for sure we talk about olives, that it's prohibited. So basically, the Sfat Emet said that what we said here, we need to know what exactly the measure that increase the temperature we're speaking here. It's all involved with some type of statistics that in a measurement when it's come to a change temperature. Tashma, Damar Rabbi Zera Mishum Chad Dever Rabbi Yanai. Rabbi Zera said in the house of Rabbi Yanai, Kupa Shetaman Ba. If it's a basket that one insalted food in a permissible manner, which means in dry, soft materials or the like. So he said, Asur la'anicha al gefet shel zeitim. It is prohibited to place it upon the residue of olives. Why? Because it's add heat. Even the Hatmana itself didn't make with something that is add heat, but because he put it on the top of the others, it's like creating that. Shma mina. So you learn from that regard that shel zeitim tnan, that what we discuss in the Mishnah, we apply to residue of olives. So meaning that the sesame is permitted. So he said, Le'olam ei malach linyan hatmana v'shumshumin nami asur. So actually I can say to you that in regards to actual insulation, the residue of sesame is also prohibited. Le'inyan, however, with regards to asukei havla, the zeitim maskei havla, the shumshumin lo maskei havla. So heating food that is not actually insulated in it, like olive causes heat to rise. So it's prohibited even to place cooked food upon it. However, the sesame, the residue of sesame that not cause to rise the extents, so it's permitted to place food upon it. First halacha, we talk about a moving kolpen. Hava metaltelina kanuna agav kitma. So this is Rambam Hilchot Shabbat 26. The case of carrying a kolpen which is lit before Shabbat and contain ashes and sticks serve as the basis for the principle that one is permitted to carry an object that serves as a base for both prohibited and permitted object. The Mishnah Brura rules that this principle apply only if the permitted object is more significantly than prohibited one. However, if the prohibition object is worth more, or the value of the two is equal, then carrying the base is prohibited. The value of an object is determined subjectively by each individual. Then we discuss mitashel tarsiim. Mitashel tarsiim is a special bed that we say that assembling an object whose component parts are loosely connected is permitted on Shabbat. One may not attach the component tightly, but if he does it, so he's liable to bring a chatat, a sin offering. That's the Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. Then we said, Klita Chatanel Kabel, so that's very important halacha, it's very practical. The idea is a vessel beneath the oil lamp to receive sparks. So basically the Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim 265 said it is permitted to position a vessel to receive sparks from a lamp even on Shabbat. However, the Mishnah Berurah said, according to all opinion, it is prohibited to place a vessel with water because it hastened the extinguishing of the sparks. Then we learned in a new perek, Bamet Omnim, it is prohibited to insult a pot of food on Shabbat in order to retain the level of heat in the pot, even if the insulting the pot does not increase the level of heat, or even the food is completely cooked. If the insulation increases the heat, it is prohibited to insult the food before Shabbat as well. If one insulted the pot in a substance that adds heat, the food is prohibited even after the fact. One may not insult the pot of cooked food in the following substances, whether the materials are wet or dry. Now, he said, Gefet shel shumshumim, even though the GEMARA does not arrive at the explicit conclusion in the material, one may not insult a pot of cooked food in a solid sesame residue, because the GEMARA discussion indicates that this is an accepted position, that's the Ran. However, according to GEMARA, it's permitted to place a pot of cooked food atop sesame residue. That's the Magen Avraham Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim 257. Hashem